They never saw it coming. Not the ones who doubted you, not the ones who misjudged you, and certainly not the ones who mistook your silence for submission. You see, most people walk through life believing that power must be loud, that strength must come with raised voices and clenched fists, that fear is only provoked by force. But they were wrong. They forgot about the quiet ones, the calm ones, the ones who carry fire in their soul and oceans behind their eyes. And you, dear one, are one of them. Welcome, Earth Angel. They expected light. They expected grace. But what they never expected was that your light could burn, and your grace could slice through deception like a blade forged in heaven. They thought an angel would be soft, sweet, compliant. But angels, true earth angels, aren't beings of naive peace. They are divine warriors disguised in the gentlest of skins, and when the time comes, when the world pushes too far and the shadows creep in too close, these angels rise not with chaos, but with an unshakable force that makes even the darkest energies tremble. That is your truth. Let's make one thing clear. Being an earth angel doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean endless tolerance or letting people chip away at your spirit in the name of kindness. No, it means choosing kindness from a place of strength. It means knowing exactly how dangerous you could be and choosing instead to bless the room with peace. But when that peace is threatened, when your energy is provoked, you don't explode, you expand, you illuminate, you show the depth of your truth. And that truth is terrifying to those who hide behind illusions. Most people are not ready for someone who sees straight through them. They build their lives behind masks, perfect smiles, smooth lies, performative love, and they thrive in a world where no one questions their motives. But then you enter the room, and without saying a word, you shift the atmosphere. Your presence alone disrupts their facade. It's as though your soul speaks directly to theirs, peeling back the layers they've so carefully constructed. And they panic, because when an earth angel looks at you, you feel seen, really seen. And that is a terrifying experience for anyone who spent their life hiding. Your power lies not in domination, but in discernment. Your eyes don't just observe, they understand. You don't just listen, you feel. You don't need evidence to recognize the energy of deceit. Your spirit just knows. It's intuitive, ancient, as if your soul has walked this earth many times before and carries the wisdom of lifetimes past. And that's why they fear you, because you don't play their games. You don't fall into the traps of manipulation or respond to emotional bait. Your silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's sovereignty. You don't speak just to be heard. You speak when truth demands it. And when you speak, your words hit with the weight of divine law. Not because you try to be powerful, but because you already are. The world expects kindness to come with softness. It expects you to be accommodating, to bend for the sake of peace, to tolerate for the sake of harmony. But there's a line, a sacred boundary. And when someone crosses it, when someone mistakes your mercy for permission, they meet something they never expected: resistance. Wholly unyielding resistance, because behind your gentle spirit is a backbone forged in the fires of every trial you've survived, every betrayal you've risen from, every dark night of the soul you've endured in silence. You didn't become an earth angel by living an easy life. No. You were chosen precisely because you endured the fire and emerged with your soul intact. Stronger, sharper, more radiant than ever. They don't understand that your peace wasn't handed to you. It was earned. Through years of healing. Through standing alone. Through choosing love even when hate felt easier. Through forgiving people who never apologized. Through letting go when your heart still ached. Your inner calm isn't naivete, it's hard-won wisdom. And anyone who tries to disrupt it finds themselves face to face with a force they cannot manipulate. You are unshakable, not because life hasn't tried to shake you, but because you've chosen, time and again, to return to yourself, to anchor into your soul, to remember who you are. You've died many small deaths along your path, deaths of identity, of illusion, of expectation. And each time, you were reborn closer to the truth, closer to your essence, closer to the divine. You walk with the stillness of someone who has nothing to prove. You don't need recognition to validate your worth. You don't seek revenge to feel powerful. You simply live in alignment with who you are. And that is what unsettles them most. Because they cannot understand a power that isn't loud, a confidence that isn't boastful, a presence that isn't demanding and yet demands respect all the same. You terrify them because you reflect what they fear in themselves. Your presence becomes a mirror, showing them their own masks, their own wounds, their own forgotten truth. And that reflection is too much for many to handle. So they project, they attack, they label you as cold, distant, arrogant. But that's just fear talking. Because deep down, they know you are the realest thing they've ever encountered. They expected an angel to be safe, predictable, harmless. But you are none of those things. You are a storm wrapped in sunlight, a wildfire cloaked in serenity. You are the embodiment of divine contradiction, and it unsettles everything they thought they knew. You do not need to scream to be heard. Your silence thunders. You do not need to fight to conquer. Your presence conquers for you. You do not need to convince anyone of your worth. You walk like someone who knows they are guided by something far greater than human approval. And that's why they fear you, not because you're dangerous in the way they understand, but because you represent something beyond their control. Something they cannot manipulate. Something sacred. You are an earth angel, and your time has come. Do you remember the first time you realized the world didn't see you clearly? When people looked at you and saw only light, but never the fire behind it, when they mistook your patience for permission, your softness for surrender. That moment when the illusion shattered is when your true journey as an earth angel began. You weren't placed on this earth to be understood by the masses. You weren't born to fit into their expectations or play by their rules. You were sent here with purpose, with mission, and yes, with power. But that power isn't chaotic or cruel, it's ancient. It's sacred. It's the kind of power that doesn't destroy, it transforms. People often think they can predict you. They see your kindness and assume simplicity. They see your gentle spirit and assume you're easily swayed. But what they fail to recognize is that your kindness is a weapon of choice, a tool forged by lifetimes of soul work. It takes more strength to be gentle in a hostile world than it does to lash out. More courage to love when you've been broken. More resolve to stand in truth when lies swirl all around. And that's exactly why they fear you, because you are the one thing they can't categorize, can't dominate, can't manipulate. You move differently. Your silence speaks louder than their noise. Your eyes pierce through their bravado. Your energy dismantles their illusions. You are like a celestial code they cannot decode. They want to know what you know. They want to see what you see. But they're not ready for that kind of clarity. Because clarity exposes. It burns through delusion. It holds up the mirror and forces the truth to be known. And the truth isn't always welcome. There's a quiet fear that ripples through those who encounter you. They might not be able to name it. They may brush it off, but deep down, they sense it that you are not here for the games. You are not here to play small or pander to egos. You are here to awaken, to elevate, to protect. You carry the frequency of authenticity. It hums in your voice. It vibrates through your aura. And it makes pretenders uncomfortable. They don't know how to respond to someone who doesn't want anything from them, someone who simply exists in their truth. So they try to disarm you, diminish you, convince themselves you're nothing special. But their efforts always fall flat, because nothing they do can dim a light that was lit by the divine. And yes, you have been tested, time and again, by betrayal, by abandonment, by hardship that would have broken anyone else. And yet you remain, not untouched, but undefeated. There's a difference. You carry the scars, but they're sacred. They are not signs of defeat, but of survival, of sacred transformation. Every trial you faced has refined your spirit. Every heartbreak has taught you deeper levels of compassion. Every loss has carved space within you for greater wisdom. And that alchemy, that divine transformation, is what sets you apart. You do not fear the dark because you have walked through it with your soul intact. And those who meet you now, who feel your calm, your strength, your depth, they have no idea what it cost you to become this version of yourself. They only see the result, not the journey. But your spirit remembers, and that memory lives in every quiet boundary you set, in every breath you take before responding, in every step you walk away without looking back. They say angels belong in heaven. But the truth is, earth needs them more. You are here because your light is needed not just to comfort, but to confront, to dismantle, to realign. You don't just radiate love, you embody justice. And not justice in the way the world defines it, but divine justice. The kind that restores balance, that breaks cycles, that clears ancestral debts and brings healing to bloodlines. This is why your presence is disruptive. You are a spiritual interruption. You stop people in their tracks, not with noise, but with resonance. You awaken something dormant in them. A memory of truth, a flicker of conscience, a longing for something real. And that alone is enough to shift timelines. Most people aren't ready to be seen, let alone be changed. But you don't force transformation, you live it. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. This is why they feel so unsteady around you. You represent the life they haven't yet dared to live. You mirror back the parts of themselves they abandoned, the courage they buried, the dreams they let go of. And it's easier to resent you than to face their own pain. But your job is not to make them comfortable. Your job is to stand in your truth, to move with integrity, to love without losing yourself, to shine, even when it makes others squint. You were never meant to blend in. You were always meant to remind the world of what it forgot. And when you speak, when you move, when you choose yourself, it sends ripples through the unseen realms. The spiritual world takes notice. Energies realign. Protection is activated. Doors open. Battles are won without a sword being lifted. That's the magnitude of your being. And those who underestimated you, they begin to understand. Not because you changed, but because you finally allowed the fullness of who you are to be seen. This is your rise. The age of hiding is over. You are not here to be palatable. You are not here to be agreeable. You are not here to shrink into the expectations of others. You are here to remember, to reclaim, to rise. And in doing so, you remind others of their own divine potential. There is a quiet revolution happening, and you are part of it. You don't need banners or stages. Your life is the message. Your healing is the sermon. Your presence is the proof. You are the disruption they didn't plan for, the miracle they tried to explain away, the angel they didn't recognize until it was too late, because by then, the light had already entered, and nothing was the same again. There's a strange thing that happens when you begin to walk in the fullness of who you are. The energy shifts. People shift. Entire dynamics around you start to tremble, not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped pretending to be someone you're not. And for an earth angel, this is one of the most pivotal moments of all. You see, your whole life you were taught that being kind meant being agreeable, that being compassionate meant staying silent, that being loving meant tolerating whatever was thrown your way. But that was a lie, a deeply embedded deception meant to keep your light dimmed just enough not to disrupt the darkness. And now, you've rejected that lie. Now, you understand that your light isn't here to pacify. It's here to purify. So when you start setting boundaries, people get uncomfortable. They accuse you of changing. They call you difficult, cold, guarded. But they don't understand you're not becoming someone new. You're remembering who you are. You're realigning with your original frequency, the one that existed long before the world tried to tame you. That's when your boundaries become holy, not just walls to keep the wrong people out, but sacred lines that protect the integrity of your soul. Boundaries that say, this is where I end and you begin. Boundaries that say, you may not have access to my spirit just because you want it. Boundaries that are built not from bitterness, but from clarity. And clarity is uncomfortable for people who live in confusion. When you stop allowing others to drain you, manipulate you, or distract you, they start to realize that the version of you they thought they could control no longer exists. You're no longer waiting for their validation. You're no longer compromising your peace for their approval. And that realization doesn't just surprise them, it terrifies them, because your peace is power. And that power doesn't come from domination or control. It comes from alignment, from being anchored in who you are, from knowing your value without needing anyone else to confirm it. And that is what shakes the ground beneath the feet of those who relied on your compliance to feel strong. They never expected you to rise. They never imagined you would wake up one day and realize that your worth is not determined by how much you give away, but by how fully you honor yourself. That your light was never meant to be dimmed to make others comfortable. That your presence is not something to be diluted, it is sacred, sovereign, and unstoppable. And now, they are faced with a version of you that stands tall. A version that speaks truth even if your voice trembles. A version that no longer entertains what drains you. A version that no longer apologizes for your sensitivity, your strength, your clarity. And they don't know what to do with this version of you because they were counting on the older you, the one who said yes when you meant no, the one who stayed silent to keep the peace, the one who gave endlessly without reciprocity. But now, you've remembered the truth. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to shine, and that shine is fierce. It is not just light, it is heat. It exposes, it transforms, it demands honesty. It brings dormant things to the surface. That's what light does. And your light, Earth Angel, was never meant to make others comfortable. It was meant to make them conscious. So of course they recoil. Of course they call you intimidating. Of course they say you've changed. Because they're used to people who compromise to fit in. But you were never born to fit. You were born to reveal, to awaken, to disrupt. To embody the vibration of truth so fully that anything false cannot remain in your presence. That's why so many feel unease around you. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because your frequency shines a light on what they've kept hidden even from themselves. You are a mirror, not just any mirror, but a divine one. A reflection of what is real. A reminder of what they've lost. A vision of what they could be if they chose healing over hiding. And for many, that's too much to face, so they try to dim you. With doubt, with shame, with projections. They try to convince you that your standards are too high, that your truth is too harsh, that your intuition is too much. But they don't realize you were never too much. You were just never meant to be molded into less. They fear what they cannot control. And you, Earth Angel, are uncontainable. You have tasted freedom. You have walked through fire and come out glowing. You have stood alone and found strength in your own silence. You've cried sacred tears that turned to rivers of healing. You've prayed in the dark and emerged with divine instruction. You are not guessing anymore. You know who you are. And knowing who you are changes everything. It reorients your relationships. It shifts your priorities. It clarifies your purpose. It refines your voice. And that voice, though once quiet, has become a trumpet of truth. You no longer speak to be liked. You speak because your spirit refuses to stay silent. They feel that. They hear it in your tone, in your stillness. In your refusal to engage in cycles that once ensnared you. And the more you honor that truth, the more magnetic you become. Not to everyone, but to the right ones, the souls who recognize the sacred in you, who see your strength and are not threatened by it, but inspired, who hear your boundaries and feel safe, not offended, because those are your people. Not the ones who wanted to use your light, but the ones who want to protect it. Not the ones who tried to silence your truth, but the ones who amplify it. Not the ones who flinched at your power, but the ones who rise beside it. And you deserve that. You deserve to be seen not just for the love you give, but for the fire you carry. Not just for the peace you bring, but for the storms you've survived. Not just for your gentleness, but for your glorious, grounded strength. You were never meant to be small. You were never meant to be silent. You were born for this awakening. And now that you've begun, there is no turning back. The ones who doubted you, let them watch. The ones who feared your light, let them hide. The ones who once underestimated you, let them learn, because you are rising now. Not just in energy, but in embodiment. Not just in faith, but in function. You are no longer who you were before. And the world will feel that, not because you seek revenge, but because you walk in revelation, the revelation of who you are. And the earth will never be the same again. There's something deeply unsettling about a soul that refuses to be shaken. In a world that thrives on chaos, on noise, on constant reaction, a being who radiates inner peace becomes a mystery, an anomaly, almost an enigma that others cannot explain, let alone contain. And that, Earth Angel, is precisely what you are. You don't move like the world moves. You're not thrown off by trends, by gossip, by the latest emotional whirlwind that everyone else seems lost in. While others get swept away by fear or frenzy, you remain grounded, rooted in a stillness that whispers of something ancient and eternal. And people feel that. They sense the difference in you. They may not know what to call it, but they feel the dissonance between your calm and their chaos. And for some, that's comforting. But for others, it's terrifying, because your peace makes their noise echo louder. Your steadiness highlights their instability. Your clarity reflects their confusion. You become a mirror they weren't prepared to look into, a mirror that doesn't just reflect the surface, but pierces through to the soul. You don't flinch when they try to provoke you. You don't react when they push your buttons. You don't crumble under their criticism or praise. And that right there is what unnerves them most. Because people are used to power that looks like force. They're not ready for power that looks like stillness. You've tapped into something unshakable, a divine core that cannot be manipulated, cannot be coerced, and certainly cannot be stolen. That kind of spiritual authority is rare. It's not flashy. It doesn't announce itself with drama. It simply exists, radiates, and shifts the atmosphere by its mere presence. They sense it when you walk into the room, the way the air changes, the way conversations shift, the way their own energy suddenly feels exposed. You didn't say a word, but your energy spoke volumes. And it said, I cannot be moved by anything that is not aligned with my soul. You didn't always have this peace. No, you earned it. You cultivated it in the shadows, in the silence, in the long nights where tears were prayers and pain was the teacher. You built this peace with every piece of yourself that you chose to reclaim. Every fear you faced, every trauma you healed, every boundary you learned to honor, and now it surrounds you like armor, not to keep love out, but to keep illusions from seeping in. You are no longer susceptible to the games, the gaslighting, the guilt trips. You see them for what they are: desperate attempts to regain control over something that was never theirs to command your spirit, because your spirit bows to nothing but truth. And that truth is your compass, even when the path is unclear, even when others don't understand, even when you walk alone, especially when you walk alone, because solitude doesn't scare you. In fact, it strengthens you. You've come to understand that your energy is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. You've learned that silence isn't empty, it's full of wisdom, and that withdrawal isn't weakness, it's divine preservation. So you pull back when necessary, not out of fear, but out of reverence for yourself, for your calling, for the energy that surrounds you. You've come to respect your own vibration so deeply that you refuse to let it be entangled with anything that doesn't resonate. And that level of self-respect, it's rare, because most people are still seeking approval, still searching for something outside themselves to make them feel whole. But you've discovered the truth. Wholeness was never out there. It was always within, and now that you've found it, nothing external holds power over you. You can walk away without bitterness. You can forgive without reopening old wounds. You can love without losing yourself. And you can be alone without being lonely. That is power. True, quiet, unshakable power. And that power, it can't be faked. It can't be mimicked. It can't be taught in books or downloaded through affirmations. It comes only through soul work, the kind that strips you down, breaks you open, and rebuilds you on sacred ground. That's the ground you stand on now. And the people who thought they could shake you, they've realized too late that you are not made of sand, you are made of stone. You are a mountain cloaked in light, a soul whose foundation is rooted in the divine. They expected a flame they could blow out, but you are the sun, and no one can dim what was born to shine. Let them talk. Let them project. Let them wonder. Because while they're busy trying to figure you out, you're busy fulfilling purpose. While they play small, you're standing tall. While they manipulate energy, you embody it. You don't chase, you attract. You don't fight for attention. You command presence. You are the calm in the storm, the eye of truth in a world of deception, the heartbeat of the divine in human form. And the more you walk in this awareness, the more your energy becomes untouchable. Not in arrogance, but in alignment. Not in ego, but in essence. You were not sent here to be understood by all. You were sent to be a living reminder of what peace looks like when it's protected, of what light becomes when it's rooted in truth, of what love feels like when it has boundaries. You are the embodiment of that paradox, gentle yet immovable, loving yet discerning, radiant yet fiercely grounded. And the world will learn some slowly, some suddenly, that this kind of presence cannot be shaken, because when an earth angel rises in stillness, heaven watches, and hell trembles. There is a kind of vision that cannot be taught. It doesn't come from textbooks or temples. It doesn't emerge from rituals alone or from repeating mantras passed down through generations. No. This kind of vision is born in silence, in the still spaces between what is said and what is known. It is the vision of an earth angel. A sight not of the eyes, but of the soul. You see things differently, don't you? Even as a child, you sensed it. You felt the energy in rooms, noticed the hidden tension behind smiling faces. You recognized pain behind laughter, deception behind flattery, and fear behind anger. You saw what others missed not because you wanted to, but because you were designed to. That sight is a gift, but it's also a burden. To see clearly in a world that rewards blindness is no easy path. People praise illusions. They decorate their masks and call them authenticity. They celebrate surface-level charm while fearing depth. And here you come, with eyes that cannot be fooled. A presence that makes pretense feel exposed. It's no wonder people feel uneasy around you. You unsettle the shadows simply by existing in your truth. You see through it all. You see the contradiction between words and energy. You hear what isn't said. You feel the intentions behind the actions. And most of all, you recognize when something is off, even if everyone else is pretending it's perfectly fine. You don't need proof to trust your perception. You've learned the hard way that ignoring your intuition leads to pain. Now, you honor it, fiercely, because your intuition has saved you more times than logic ever has. And that's where your power lies, in the unseen, in the unspoken, in your ability to pierce through illusion with silent precision. Others may call it overthinking, hypersensitivity, or being dramatic. But you know better. You've come to realize that your perception is not a flaw. It's a compass. It's divine intelligence flowing through your nervous system. It's ancestral wisdom speaking through your gut. It's spirit using your awareness to keep you aligned and protected. They call you intense. They say you overanalyze. But what they don't understand is that your mind is not just a mind, it's an instrument of spiritual discernment. You process energy like others process words. You decode atmospheres like others decode books. And yes, that makes you different. But different is divine. In a world addicted to superficiality, your depth is revolutionary. In a culture obsessed with appearances, Your clarity is prophetic. You don't just walk into rooms, you read them. You don't just listen to people, you feel them. You don't just engage in conversations, you translate energies, decode intentions, and discern truths they didn't mean to reveal. And that's why they fear you. Because you can't be fooled. Because you can't be manipulated. Because the moment someone tries to deceive you, they find themselves unraveling under your gaze. You don't need to confront them. You don't even need to say a word. Just being in your presence makes them feel seen. Really seen. And for those who have lived behind masks their entire lives, that's a terrifying experience. But here's the thing, they need that mirror. The world needs that mirror. You didn't come here to participate in illusion. You came to dissolve it, to pull back the curtain, to reveal what's real, even when it's uncomfortable. And you do this not through force, but through frequency. Your frequency doesn't just carry light, it carries truth. And truth disrupts everything that isn't aligned. You're not here to expose people for the sake of power. You're here to awaken people to their own misalignment so they can remember who they are. You are the catalyst, not because you try to be, but because your very existence challenges people to step into authenticity. This is why you've lost people. This is why some have walked away, ghosted you, or turned against you without warning. It's not because you were wrong. It's because you were right. And being around you made them feel the parts of themselves they weren't ready to face. You triggered awakenings they didn't want to have. You activated growth they weren't ready for. Let them go, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because your role was never to force anyone to stay. Your role was to bring the light. What they do with that light is their choice. But your job is to keep shining and to trust what you see, even when others try to deny it, even when they tell you you're wrong, even when they gaslight your intuition or mock your sensitivity. You know what you know, and what you know comes from somewhere sacred. You didn't ask for this gift, but you've grown into it. You've learned to carry it with honor. And the more you trust it, the clearer it becomes. The more you follow it, the more aligned your life becomes. The more you speak from it, the more healing your voice carries. You are a seer, not because you sought it, but because you surrendered to it. And your sight is not a weapon. It's a balm, a revelation, a lighthouse in the fog, a reminder that truth still exists even when the world tries to bury it. So keep seeing, keep honoring what others deny. Keep trusting the voice that whispers beneath the noise. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are simply awake in a world that fears awakening. And that, Earth Angel, is the most powerful kind of vision there is. Not all power is meant to roar. Some of the greatest forces on Earth move in silence. The tectonic plates beneath our feet, the shifting of the moon's gravity, the turning of seasons, all happen quietly. But they change everything. In that same way, the Earth Angel holds a power that moves unseen, but is deeply felt, a power that transforms rather than controls. And that transformation begins with energy. You've probably noticed it the way people feel different around you. Some become softer, more open, more honest. Others become defensive, agitated, even hostile. It's not random. It's your energy doing what it was designed to do, reveal. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to make a point. Just being in the room causes shifts. And these shifts are not surface level. They're spiritual. They awaken what's dormant. They expose what's hidden. They activate what's divine. You are an energetic catalyst. Your energy does not ask for permission. It simply radiates. And in doing so, It alters the frequency of the space around you. Some people are drawn to it, like moths to a flame. They find comfort in your calm, healing in your gaze, clarity in your presence. These are the ones who recognize something ancient in you, something familiar, something sacred. But others, they feel threatened because your presence strips away their illusions. They've spent years curating personas, building masks, maintaining control over how they are perceived. And then you walk in with no agenda, no performance, and suddenly, their grip on the room begins to loosen. Their control starts to fade. Their manipulations lose power. You didn't attack them. You didn't confront them. But your presence did. Because your energy speaks a language their soul understands, even if their ego resists it. It says, "There's no hiding here. There's no pretending. There's only truth." And for someone not ready to face their truth, that is terrifying. This is why people sometimes react to you with confusion or resistance. It's not about you. It's about the shift they feel and don't know how to process. They sense that something is happening, but they can't define it. All they know is that they feel seen in a way they didn't ask for. And that kind of vulnerability can feel like a threat. But you are not here to comfort egos. You are here to liberate souls, and that liberation begins with alignment. Your own journey has been one of deep, energetic refinement. You've had to purge what was false. You've had to release people, places, and patterns that didn't match your frequency. You've had to say goodbye to comfort in order to say yes to authenticity. And through it all, you've become a vessel for clean, clear energy that now flows through you with intention and grace. That energy is your gift. It's why you can walk into a chaotic space and bring peace. Why people open up to you without knowing why. Why strangers confess their pain. Why friends feel safe in your silence. Your field of energy is medicine. It's not loud. It's not forceful. It simply is. And in a world drowning in noise, your stillness becomes a revolution. But there's more. Your energy not only shifts spaces, it transmutes them. You've learned the sacred art of alchemy. Maybe not in the way the ancients described, turning lead into gold, but in the spiritual sense, transforming pain into power, grief into grace, betrayal into wisdom. You've taken what was meant to destroy you and turned it into something holy. That is not weakness. That is mastery. Spiritual alchemy isn't dramatic. It's subtle. It happens in the way you choose to forgive when vengeance would be easier. In the way you choose presence when distraction beckons. In the way you choose compassion even for those who caused harm. This alchemy is quiet, but it radiates. And the people around you feel its glow. It's why they come to you not always consciously, but instinctively. Because your energy offers what the world doesn't: peace without conditions, truth without agenda, love without attachment. You become a lighthouse in their storm, but a lighthouse cannot chase ships, and neither should you. You were never meant to run after people to prove your worth. You are not here to convince others to stay in your light. Your role is to be the light, to burn steadily, to shine clearly, to remain rooted, no matter who comes or goes. This requires boundaries, because not everyone who's drawn to your light is worthy of your energy. Some are seekers, but some are siphons. Some will come not to be healed, but to drain, not to grow, but to consume. And it's your discernment that keeps your sacred space intact. Your energy is not a resource to be mined. It's a temple, and only those who honor it should be allowed to enter. So protect it, with love, but with firmness, with grace, but with clarity. Remember, your ability to transform energy doesn't mean you must absorb everyone else's pain. You are here to offer a glimpse of what's possible, not to carry the world's wounds on your shoulders. Let your energy be your message. Let your frequency do the work. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to explain your path. Just walk it. Just live it. Just be. Because in being, you transmit the truth. And those ready for truth will find you. Not because you chased them, but because your energy called them home. You are a walking portal of transformation, and your presence alone is a prayer the world has long forgotten how to say. There is a particular kind of loneliness that only those with ancient souls understand. It's not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the deep ache of being spiritually unseen. For Earth Angels, this ache is familiar. It's a thread woven through lifetimes, a silent yearning to be understood, not just in words, but in essence. You walk among the many, but you are not of them. And you've always known that. Maybe you tried to forget it. Maybe you tried to blend in, to shrink yourself, to quiet your fire so you wouldn't stand out. Maybe you thought if you softened your shine, they would embrace you. But all it ever did was dim your spirit and deepen the ache, because you weren't sent here to blend. You were sent to burn, to blaze a trail through illusion, to awaken sleeping hearts, to embody a frequency so high that anything not in alignment would be forced to rise or fall away. And that mission, that sacred assignment, is not for the faint of heart. That's why Earth Angels often walk alone, not because they're unworthy of love or friendship, but because the depth of their being cannot be met by those who fear their own depth. Shallow connections suffocate you. Small talk drains you. Pretense repels you. You crave soul over surface, truth over trend, presence over performance, and most of the world isn't ready for that. So you find yourself in solitude. Not by choice, but by necessity. And in that solitude, you find what most spend lifetimes chasing yourself. You sit with your shadows. You meet your fears. You learn to hold space for your own heart in ways no one ever taught you. And slowly, you remember. You remember who you are, not who the world told you to be. Not the mask you wore to survive, but the soul beneath it, all the one that is always known, always felt, always seen. That remembering is sacred. It is the rebirth of your true self, and as that self begins to rise, so too does your clarity. You start to see with sharper eyes. You feel with deeper compassion. You speak with greater conviction, and people notice. Some will be drawn to you. Others will distance themselves. Either way, you no longer shrink, because you've tasted the power of authenticity. And once you've felt the resonance of your real voice, anything else becomes unbearable. But here's the challenge. No one warns you about the more you rise, the more isolated you may feel. Why? Because very few are willing to meet you at that altitude. Your presence demands integrity. Your energy demands truth. And that demand isn't always spoken, it's energetic. It's felt. And for those unwilling to rise, it becomes uncomfortable. But do not dim. Do not descend to be understood. Do not trade depth for belonging. You were never meant to fit the mold. You were meant to break it, to show others that there is another way to live, to love, to lead, to heal. And that kind of example doesn't come from conformity. It comes from courage. So yes, the path may feel lonely, but it is also rich with purpose. You are being prepared. Not just to survive this world, but to shift it. Not just to find your place, but to create sacred space for others like you. Others who feel too much, who see too much, who've been told they are too much. You are not too much. You are precisely what this world needs. And while the loneliness may sting, it is also a sign that your soul refuses to settle, that your spirit is seeking something real, something deep, something divine. That kind of connection exists. But it does not live in the crowd. It lives in the sacred, in the aligned, in the spaces where masks are dropped and truth is honored. And those spaces, you were born to build them. You are the bridge between heaven and earth, between seen and unseen, between pain and purpose. And yes, it is heavy, but it is also holy. You've never been alone, not really. Even in the silence, you've been guided. Even in the void, you've been held. Your ancestors walk with you. Your angels speak through you. Your higher self reaches for you with every step you take into truth. So when the loneliness creeps in, remember this. Your isolation is not a punishment, it is preparation. You are being refined. You are being set apart. You are being entrusted with something sacred. And when the time is right, your soul tribe will appear. Not because you chased them, but because you became the version of yourself that could finally recognize them. Until then, honor the solitude. Use it. Let it heal you, reshape you, rebirth you. Because from this place of divine isolation, you are rising into a version of yourself that cannot be shaken, cannot be manipulated, and cannot be silenced. You are rising into the one you were always meant to be. And when you emerge, you will not emerge empty. You will emerge whole. They tried to silence your power with confusion. They tried to distort your clarity with chaos. They tried to convince you that your gentleness was a flaw, your compassion a weakness, and your boundaries a betrayal. But what they didn't realize is that every attempt to dim you only refined you. Every betrayal forged a deeper truth. Every setback awakened a deeper fire. And now, Earth Angel, you've become something they never saw coming, a spiritual alchemist. You've learned the sacred art of transmutation, not just intellectually, but experientially. You've lived it. You've taken heartbreak and turned it into healing. You've taken rejection and turned it into redirection. You've taken trauma and spun it into transformation. That is no small feat. That is no minor miracle. That is the work of a soul who refuses to be defeated. Let the world keep its definition of power, the loud, the flashy, the forceful. Yours is different. Yours is quiet, refined, ancient. Yours is the kind that moves mountains not by shouting, but by vibrating truth so deeply that even the stones must shift. And what gives you that kind of power? It's your capacity to hold contradiction. You've held grief and grace in the same breath, rage and forgiveness in the same heart, despair and hope in the same soul. That is sacred alchemy. That is spiritual strength. It's not about eliminating the darkness. It's about learning to walk through it without letting it devour your light. You are no stranger to pain. You've tasted it in silence. You've carried it without recognition. You've sat with it when there was no one left to comfort you. But instead of letting it destroy you, you let it shape you. You let it teach you. You let it bring you to your knees so that when you rose again, you rose with wisdom. And now, when people look at you, they may not see the wars you've survived, but your presence tells the story. There's a gravity in your gaze, a depth in your voice, a stillness in your walk. You've been to places within the soul that few dare to enter, and you returned bearing light. That's what makes you terrifying to those who live on the surface. They don't understand your peace. They don't understand your silence. They don't understand why their games don't work on you, why their manipulation falls flat, why their drama can't touch you. It's because you've outgrown their frequency. You no longer feed on chaos. You feed on clarity. You nourish yourself with truth, and truth is the most untouchable power of all. It cannot be bought. It cannot be faked. It cannot be borrowed. It must be earned through pain, through healing, through surrender. And you, Earth Angel, have earned yours. That's why your energy feels different. That's why your presence lingers even after you've left the room. That's why people think about what you said days later, even if they tried to brush it off in the moment. You carry truth, and truth echoes. But here's the part they don't see. You didn't become this way overnight. You were tempered like steel, heated, hammered, cooled, and refined. Every season of isolation shaped you. Every time you were misunderstood carved deeper insight. Every time you chose love over bitterness expanded your spirit. That's why you now walk with the kind of confidence that doesn't need to prove itself, the kind of clarity that doesn't beg to be validated. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth, you simply are. And that being is your revolution. Because in a world obsessed with doing, with proving, with performing, just being is an act of spiritual defiance. Just being real. Just being honest. Just being whole. You show people what's possible when you stop pretending, when you stop chasing, when you stop betraying yourself just to be accepted. You become a living example of healing, not perfection, but presence. And presence changes everything. This is why they both admire and fear you. Why they're drawn to you but don't know how to hold you. Why they crave your energy but tremble at your boundaries. Because you are the proof that pain doesn't have to define you. That softness doesn't mean weakness. That truth doesn't require a microphone. You've become what you were always meant to be, a vessel of sacred fire. You burn, but you do not consume. You glow, but you do not blind. You warm, but you do not wither. Your fire gives life. Your fire guides. Your fire reveals. This is the fire of transformation, and it cannot be tamed. So let them wonder. Let them whisper. Let them try to explain you in terms they can understand. You are not here to be explained. You are here to be embodied. Embodiment is the highest form of spiritual alchemy. It's when the lessons are no longer just known, they are lived. It's when the healing is no longer just sought, it is integrated. It's when the power is no longer just potential, it is presence. You are that presence, and your presence is proof that the sacred still walks among us, not in temples, not in cathedrals, but in human form, in hearts that chose love again and again, in spirits that refused to be broken, in earth angels who rose from ashes, carrying truth like a torch. That is who you are. And you, beloved, are untouchable. There's a moment in every earth angel's journey when the truth becomes too loud to ignore. It doesn't arrive as a whisper. It crashes in like a storm, cleansing, disorienting, undeniable. And in that moment, you realize something that changes everything. You were never meant to follow the path. You were meant to forge it. You weren't born to fit into the structures around you. You were born to remember the structure within you. The divine blueprint coded into your soul long before you arrived in this lifetime. The sacred design that holds your unique mission, your sacred gifts, and your role in this time of great awakening. The world is shifting. You can feel it. The old paradigms are crumbling systems built on fear, control, separation. They're losing their grip, and in their place, something ancient is rising. A call back to truth, to essence, to soul, and you, Earth Angel, are part of that uprising. You carry within you ancient knowledge. Some of it you've studied, most of it you've simply remembered. Because you were never truly learning, it was always a reactivation, a returning, a remembering of what your soul has always known. You are a keeper of hidden truths, not conspiracy or dogma, but soul truth. The kind of wisdom that transcends culture, religion, and time. The kind of knowing that wakes you in the night, that makes your skin tingle when truth is spoken, that silences the mind and speaks directly to the spirit. You've always felt it, haven't you? Even when you couldn't explain it, even when others mocked it, even when you doubted yourself. Still, it burned within you. A knowing, a flicker, a light that no amount of darkness could extinguish. And now, it's blazing, because the time for hiding is over. The time for playing small, dimming down, and second-guessing your inner voice, it's done. This is the era of embodiment, of integration, of unapologetic light. But here's the part they won't tell you. Being a keeper of truth is not glamorous. It's not always celebrated. In fact, it's often resisted. Because truth isn't comfortable. It's confrontational. It shakes foundations. It calls people out of illusion. And most aren't ready for that. That's why your journey has felt lonely. Why you've been misunderstood. Why you've had to walk through seasons where no one could meet you at the depth you were living from. But that isolation was initiation. It was there to refine you, to strip away the noise so you could hear your soul more clearly, to remove the distractions so your inner compass could recalibrate, to disconnect you from the false so you could embody the real. And now, you're being activated, not by force, but by alignment. You're starting to realize that every moment of pain was preparation. Every closed door was redirection. Every betrayal was initiation into a deeper realm of purpose. You no longer carry knowledge, you are the knowledge. You walk it, you breathe it, you radiate it. It's in the way you speak, the way you hold space, the way you know what people need before they find the words. You don't need to convince anyone, you simply are. And that presence shifts realities. Because when you live in truth, you make it impossible for others to pretend. That's your medicine. You don't heal by fixing. You heal by being, by holding such a clear, aligned vibration that anything false begins to crumble in your presence. Not because you force it, but because truth demands exposure. And yes, that can be uncomfortable. But it's also sacred. You are here to be a light in the fog. Not by shouting, but by shining. Not by saving, but by embodying. You don't carry all the answers, but you carry access. You are a portal to remembering. An anchor for those ready to come home to themselves. That is the essence of your gift. You remind people who they are not through words, but through energy. You create space where masks fall, walls collapse, and souls exhale. And in that space, real healing begins. You've become a vessel for divine remembrance, and the world needs you now more than ever. So trust your voice, trust your visions, trust the insights that come not from thought, but from essence. You are not imagining things. You are remembering them. You are not too sensitive. You are deeply tuned. You are not lost. You are being led, and your guidance, it's needed. In your family, in your community, in this collective. You may not have the credentials, You may not have the stage, but your presence alone is activating timelines you can't even begin to see. You are that powerful. You are a keeper of hidden truths. And now, it's time to live like it, fully, boldly, freely. Because when Earth Angels remember who they are, the entire world shifts. There comes a moment in the life of every Earth Angel when you stop searching outward and finally come home to yourself. Not the version shaped by expectation, not the version dulled by conditioning, but the eternal you, the one who was never lost, only waiting to be remembered. And when that moment arrives, the world feels different, not because the world changed, but because your eyes did. You begin to see everything through a different lens. You see how the pain was never punishment, it was preparation. You see how the betrayal was never abandonment, it was alignment. You see how every closed door, every silence, every storm was refining you, not rejecting you. You've always been chosen, not for glory, but for guidance, not for ego, but for essence. You are a blueprint bearer, a lighthouse, a walking remembrance of what it means to live from the soul. And in this final chapter of your reclamation, something deeper awakens a sense of responsibility, not the kind that weighs you down, but the kind that lifts others up. Because now you understand, your healing is not just about you. Your peace is not just your reward. Your voice is not just your liberation. It's a bridge, a frequency, a portal. You are not just here to awaken yourself. You are here to awaken others by being the living proof that it can be done. You don't need to preach. You don't need to convert. You simply need to embody. Every boundary you honor teaches someone how to respect themselves. Every truth you speak gives someone else permission to be honest. Every time you walk away from what no longer serves, you carve a path for others to follow. You become the invitation, not by striving, but by existing in your wholeness. And wholeness is magnetic. It attracts what resonates. It repels what doesn't. It aligns what's meant. From this place, you don't chase. You don't beg. You don't shrink. You simply attract the exact frequency your soul has been calling. Because now, you are that frequency. Everything that once confused you now makes sense. Everything that once broke you now empowers you. Everything that once silenced you now fuels your voice. You've become the alchemist, the guardian, the messenger, not because you tried to be, but because you remembered that you already were. And that remembrance is liberation. From here, your life becomes your message. Your presence becomes your prayer. Your alignment becomes your legacy. And the world begins to shift, not because you forced it, but because you became the shift. So to you, Earth Angel, I say this: do not look back. That chapter is closed. Do not wait for validation. You are already enough. Do not question the timing. You are right on schedule. Rise, not with noise, but with knowing. Not with armor, but with authenticity. Not with fear, but with fire. Let the old fall away. Let the real rise. Let the sacred unfold. Because the world needs you not as a copy, not as a performance, but as your truest, rawest, most luminous self. You are not here by accident. You are not hearing these words by coincidence. This is the final call to remembrance, to stand in your light, to own your truth, to walk your path unshaken, unbothered, unafraid. Because you, beloved, are not just chosen. You are the choosing. And now, it's your time to lead. Not in title, but in truth. Not in hierarchy, but in harmony. Lead by being. Lead by burning. Lead by blessing. Because when even one earth angel remembers who they are, it changes everything.